So I'm just gonna say outright with the start of this review that this game is only 40 minutes long and it costs around $5. While that might sound like a ripoff, I actually would still recommend this game. But you have to be in a very specific mood and in a very, very specific state of mind to be able to find this enjoyable. It's essentially a walking sim, but it does require a little bit of extra thought. There's an extreme amount of downtime in this game. The driving sequences alone take up about 50% of the gameplay. And at first that frustrated me, but then I realized that the driving sequences were the times where I would sit and ponder and think, what's going on? See, what this game does right is that the world building is actually insane. The story itself is extremely short, but you can really dive deep into conversations with characters to figure out current events in this fictional world. There's also kind of an overlaying creepy tone to the game, which I appreciated. In a way, I'd call it kind of a psychological horror. I don't know if I'd go that far, but this is one of those games that stuck with me. Like after I beat it the first time, I beat it again, and then I noticed a couple details that I didn't notice the first time. And then I beat it another time and I noticed even more details. It's not that the story was changing each playthrough, it's more that I noticed other details that I would never have noticed when I first started playing because I now had knowledge of what was coming. Overall, I did come to my own theories, which I will share with you guys that are interested. But as far as the review is concerned, being completely spoiler-free, yeah, it's a good game. I'd recommend it. So if you want to hear my theory, I would actually recommend you to pause the video, watch a full playthrough of the game, and come back. Because otherwise, what I'm about to tell you is not going to make any goddamn sense. So I think that a lot of the scenes that you play in this game are played out of order. So I think that the driving sequences in general are the start of the game and close to the end of the game as well. When you're driving, the seat right beside you kind of just swaps items randomly, but I think it's just a very abrupt jump cut to playing as the two different characters during different states in time. I'm not saying like time travel or anything. I'm saying quite literally while we're driving, we are living out the photographer and then we are also living out the smuggler. I think that the photographer was out driving, then they ended up going to the gas station. They're a local, so they chat up the gas station attendant. It makes more sense that this character would be a little more open to conversation versus the other time you go to the gas station, which is clearly the smuggler. The gas station attendant also kind of references the woods and some creepy stuff going on, so maybe it piqued the photographer's interest. Photographer goes out to the woods, gets killed, and the smuggler slash assassin is called in. They're driving out to the woods with the gun next to them, and then they go to the gas station, and the gas station attendant is just trying to chat them up and they don't care. The interesting thing is that during this sequence, you can actually see the same creature that killed the photographer out at the gas station pump. I don't think that this is an enemy of the smuggler. I think that the smuggler was actually called in to deal with the witness, which would be the photographer. The creature might be on their side or is just some sort of government entity, like who knows? So you go out to the woods and then you end up finding the photographer. And I think that the smuggler was just so grossed out and confused at the whole situation of how gruesome it was that they end up calling the police. And then when the smuggler is driving back to town or to the next town, who knows? This is when they have the camera box in the seat right beside them. They go to the food area, they end up shooting the dude, they take a bunch of the tapes and they put a bunch of them in the camera box. And then I think the next sequence is actually the first part of the entire game because the character that you assassinated is out on the sidewalk being eaten by a bunch of crows. And when you turn in to look at the diner, you can see that the smuggler actually has the photographer's camera and there's a lot of shadowed figures, which I think is no coincidence that they kind of look similar to the creature that killed the photographer. I don't think they are creatures, but I don't think they're necessarily human. And then when your boss is giving you heck about the whole situation, it's kind of left quite ambiguous, like what are they pissed off about? I think they're mad because the smuggler called the cops when they found the photographer's body. So the smuggler heads back to the apartment and the boss did say that they gave you a couple extra tapes to kind of wet the whistle of, you know, the locals, which would explain why you are actually allowed to give the tape to the apartment lady. And finally, it skips to when the smuggler gets stopped by Border Patrol. The dude watches the tape, turns into a weird TV thing and goes inside out. And I think that that's the end of the timeline. The thing is, I didn't expect to enjoy this game as much as I did, especially considering the abrupt ending that kind of pissed me off at first. I don't know if there's necessarily a deeper meaning to the story that is going to like impact me as a human being with self-reflection or anything. I think it's more so that the world itself tells a lot without saying much, and that's actually really impressive storytelling to me. I just wish that the game was longer because I would love to spend more time getting to know this world. Anyways, that's my 2 cents towards it. You can sound off in the comments if you really want about your own theories, but I'm pretty satisfied with my own